So a massive match of the November internationals taking place this weekend. The Springboks head to the Aviva to take on the Irish. Now, these two sides have been extremely competitive throughout their last few meetings, and this game hopefully will be no different. But in this preview, we'll be looking through at the lineups, the key head-to-heads, which there are plenty of throughout this fixture, and then also a prediction at the end of who I think will win this match. But jumping straight into it, we will start with the Springboks, as they did announce their side first out of these two sides. But overall, Rassie has really stacked his side heading into this contest, and from looking at the selection, it makes it very clear Springboks have come to play, and they have come to play attacking rugby with the side that has been picked. But in the front row, it is Bohan Venter alongside Malcolm Marx and Thomas du Toit. So no real surprises in that department. Malcolm Marx, he was nominated alongside two other Springboks for Player of the Year, and you can understand why he has been phenomenal. And also, throughout these November internationals, he's getting quite a few turnovers. He's getting the lineouts right, so will be quite the handful out there on the park. In the locking duo, this is where we see the most experienced Springbok of all time at number 4, Eben Etzebeth, and partnering with him, one of the most informed locks in world rugby, that is Roa Nokia. In the loose ball trio, Sio Kolisi will be captaining the side from that number 6 jersey, Pieter-Steph du Toit at number 7, and number 8, Jasper Wiese. So a lot of physicality across that loose ball trio. Pieter-Steph du Toit, he is just an absolute workhorse. He was one of the other Springboks who were nominated for World Rugby Player of the Year. Understandably so, he has already won it, and he's got a decent chance of being able to win it again, unless, of course, Oxenshire has something to say about it. In the backline, it will be Kobus Reinach partnering with Sasha Feinberg and Ngame Zulu, so the attacking style of those two will be prominent throughout this match up against the Irish, and it has been something that Rassie has really been building upon throughout 2025, finding 9 and 10 combinations. Reinach and Sasha are one, Morne Vandenberg and Andre Pollard are another, and then off of the bench in this contest, it is Grant Williams and Marnie Libbok, and they are the third 9 and 10 pairing that Rassie has available and has used throughout this season. In the midfield, Damien Dialendi and Jesse Creel, two very experienced heads in that midfield pairing. Number 11, Cheslin Colby, so no Kurt Liarense, no Ethan Hooker, and no Edward van der Merwe. For this matchup, out on the right wing, it is Kanan Moody. So he actually moves from 13, like he was playing last week, up against the Italians, out onto that right wing. And then number 15, player of the match from last contest, it is Damien Willemse, the 6'2", 5'3", whatever you want to call it, split off the bench for the Springboks with some very handy players, including Argus Snyman, who will be bringing up his 50th cap up against quite a few of his teammates from Leinster in the URC. But looking through now at this Irish starting lineup, now I have to say, looking through at both of these sides on paper, this should be an absolutely incredible game, because Ireland have stacked their side for this contest as well. With the exception of the loss to the All Blacks, they have been building nicely throughout the November internationals, getting the win over the Japanese and then a comfortable one over the Australians just last week. But in the front row, it is Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan, and at number 3, Tadhg Furlong. So overall, this is about as strong as you would expect for the Irish. I know that Andrew Porter has received a huge amount of criticism for his scrummaging throughout recent times, and he will have his hands full in this contest, starting off with Thomas du Toit, finishing the game with Wilco Low. So if there is any sort of weakness in Andrew Porter's scrummaging, feel like it will be exploited here by the Spot 4-pack. If you look through at the other side of things, though, they've got Tadhg Furlong going up against Bohan Venter, so I think that Furlong may get the better of that scrummaging side of things, but it's just as a whole for the front rows, whether or not it is competitive, whether it goes a little bit more in one side's favour. In the locking duo, James Ryan plays 4, and Tyke Byrne slotting in as the number 5. Byrne will be absolutely crucial throughout this contest for the Irish. The man has got a gas tank that seems to never let up. He has played a huge amount of minutes throughout 2025, and he will be one of those guys that, if he is heavily involved, Ireland will be doing very well throughout the 80 minutes. In the loose ball trio, we see Ryan Beard slotting in as the 6. Josh van der Fleer returns as the number 7, and the captain, Caelan Doris, slotting in as the number 8. They have got the option of Jack Conan off the bench a little bit later on in the contest, but overall, this is a very strong loose ball trio. A lot of turnover ability with these 3 individuals, and they may need plenty of them at the Aviva. For this match, in the backline, it is Jamison Gibson Park as the number 9, with Sam Prendergast slotting in at 10. And tell you what, I didn't realise how much the Irish didn't like Sam Prendergast. Don't get me wrong, I knew that his defence at times was questionable, but boy is it ugly on the Irish Instagram when Sam Prendergast gets named in a starting side. He's got a lot of attacking ability, but he will have to be on his A game because there were a huge amount of people who wanted to see Jack Crowley in the starting lineup for this contest. And the first comparison that actually kind of comes to mind is a couple years ago with Mani Libok and Andre Pollard. Everyone wanted to see Pollard, even though Libok was getting himself opportunities. But if it is anything like that scenario, it means that if Prendergast has a few good games in a row, perhaps he'll be able to win some people over in the long run. As well, in the midfield, Bundy Aki alongside Gary Ringrose, so that is very strong for the Irish. The back three, James Lowe, Tommy O'Brien, and also at number 15, Mac Hansen, who did get himself the hat-trick last week up against Australia, so in some fine form heading into this matchup. But those are the lineups. Looking through now at the key head-to-heads. The first one, it is an absolutely massive one, and that is Malcolm Marx versus Dan Sheehan. Now, Sheehan has been a phenomenal part of this Irish four-pack. The man loves a rolling maul. Also seems to find himself in some great positions around the field, ready to score the try if the opportunity is there. He has some great pace, some good work in the breakdown, and he will definitely be one of those guys for Ireland that if he can step up, Ireland go that little bit closer to getting themselves the victory. But Malcolm Marx, he wasn't nominated for World Rugby Player of the Year for nothing. He has been doing extremely well throughout 2025. The lineouts are strong. He also loves a rolling maul. And in fact, that's my first question for you guys in the comments. Malcolm Marx or Dan Sheehan? One of these two for me is scoring a rolling maul try in this contest. But who do you think will score it first? Let me know. And at the comments. But moving on to the next key head-to-head in this contest, I actually think it's the battle of the tens. Sasha Feinberg Mngubezulu up against Sam Prendergast. Now, like I said, Prendergast seems to take a huge amount of stick for the way that he defends. He has missed a lot of tackles throughout recent times, and that is where a lot of people feel is the target zone in this Irish backline. They'll try and go through that 10 and 12 channel, although Bundy Aki, with that physicality at 12, may be able to shut that down just that little bit more. But Sasha's attacking throughout this year has been formidable. He's found gaps, he's scored tries, and he has just been able to find a way of creating some X factor for the Springboks, even in moments where it seems like they haven't had a massive amount of momentum. Perfect example was that game up against the Argentines. Every time Argentina would get themselves almost back into that contest, Sasha would go out just after the Argentine try and then somehow create an opportunity for the Springboks to score one of their own. And then the last head-to-head in this contest, there's so many, but I'm going Peter Steph-Toy and Josh van der Fleer, because those two men, they will have a phenomenal battle out there on the park. There's just something about when these two sides play. It's the closeness, it's the physicality, and both of those men definitely epitomise that. So both keys for Ireland and South Africa. But now we move on to the prediction, which I feel is one of the hardest things to do when talking about these two sides. It's all well and good looking through at the lineups and seeing how stacked they are, getting hugely excited with the anticipation to see them both play, but it is what happens out there in the 80 minutes that does matter. The last 4 times that these two sides have played, they have only been separated by 7 or less. The time before that, it was actually an Irish victory in 2017, 38 points to 3. So a little bit of an outlier in the last 5 contests. The last time these two sides played was in July 2024. It was a 1-point victory to the Irish. The game prior to that was the previous week, and it was 7 points in favour of the South Africans. So honestly, it could be a 50-50 game between these two sides, and it's very hard to pick a winner. But I do think if either of these sides were going to win by a bigger margin, it would be South Africa, but a thin margin, it could go either way. I'm going to go 26-23 in favour of South Africa. Now, it could be the other way around. I would not be surprised if Ireland managed to win this game by the 3 points, but both of these sides, I feel like, are peaking at the right time. Italy up against the Springboks last week, I think that game just fired up the Boks even more. We saw that red card given, which has now been rescinded, but that would have fired up the Springboks that little bit. The Irish, they are coming off a great win up against the Wallabies, but prior to that, they were getting a fair amount of criticism for their match up against the Japanese and the game before that, where they did suffer the loss to the All Blacks. But I can see these two sides playing a really awesome game of rugby, and hopefully it does deliver, because I know that there is a huge amount of hype heading into this fixture, and sometimes with that, the game doesn't quite deliver. But I feel like when these two sides play off, looking at their previous records as well from recent times, this game should certainly be a fantastic one. But nonetheless, it is kicking off at 6:40 a.m. New Zealand time on Sunday morning. That'll be 7:40 p.m. for you guys in South Africa. It is going to be an epic match. We are covering it on the channel with the commentary, so be sure to check that out. Also, let me know what your score prediction is for this contest, as well as your early man of the match contender for this matchup. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all for the next one.